Hello, Danny. Come play with us, Danny. Come play with us forever and ever and ever and ever. I wonder if Danny Röhl likes ice cream. I don't know how we could ask him that. Of all the things we did during lockdown, during COVID, for me, of course, it was all about the football. There were a couple of weird moments, and they were football related. I thought I handled lockdown quite well because, apart from anything else, I was morbidly obese. I wasn't quite as obese going into lockdown as I am just now, but I lost a hell of a lot of weight because you weren't under that pressure to go out socialising at the weekend. And it is a pressure as far as I'm concerned, because I need to avoid the pints. I need to avoid any other excuses to eat and drink. So suddenly you had that. You weren't allowed to go out. You weren't allowed to socialise. So that was fine. I managed to avoid the drinking in the house. The people, the family members are most likely to be affected by it negatively in terms of the older family. What I'm trying to say is basically they were all already just recently passed away, which not a good thing, but it meant there was nobody we were having to visit. We were kind of worried about a few of our neighbours and stuff like that. It was a good community set up, everybody looking out for each other. But I wasn't really, it didn't bother me. I quite like, I'm a bit of a home bird anyway. I quite like kicking about the house and all that. It didn't bother me too much. The only thing I was missing was the football and going to the football. But then, of course, it was the Bundesliga. I think was the first of the major leagues anyway. Certainly the first televised league to decide, no, we're going to play games in front of empty stadiums. We're going to play games in front of zero fans. We're going to carry on with league football. And I remember sitting one Saturday afternoon watching. I think it was definitely Borussia Dortmund at the Westfalen, maybe Bayer Leverkusen they were playing, and they're playing this game, and it was just, I'm like, I didn't realise how much I was actually missing watching live football until, because I always do that thing of thinking I'm above it. Basically, I've got other things I can do in my life. I mean, look around you, this picture that I've got behind me, all these books and all that. The fact that it's just, I kid myself. It's really weird how we kid ourselves on about the things that are most obvious to people outside. Yeah, I know I'm fat. I know I'm morbidly obese. Okay, I mean the football. I mean the fact that I'm so heavily into football. But sometimes I think it's just a bit of a hobby, just a bit of a pastime. I could take it or leave it. So I realised that when I was sitting watching that Borussia Dortmund game against that, because Saturday afternoon is usually the time to get out and go to a football match. But I kind of object to watching football on a Saturday at 3 o'clock on the telly. I was loving this. It was just, oh my God, it's like the quickening. I'm back alive again. I've had that injection of, is it Naxalone, that stuff they give to folk who've overdosed or underdosed anyway. And the football was getting this, yes, phenomenal. And then, of course, we get Emma Dodds and Neil McCann, that routine of them, like, were best pals and members of the family. And I adored Neil McCann anyway because his time at Rangers, it was phenomenal. I felt kind of close to him, literally, because of the way I sat up the back of the Govan stand and all the years of watching him in the left wing, second half, attacking the Copeland Road stand. He was kind of right in front of me all the time, Neil McCann. But Emma Dawes, she was brilliant as well on Rangers TV, and they're just bringing your club to you. And it's the lockdown season 2020, 2021, and it was almost like I felt as if, even though it's obvious it was Rangers that were running away with the league title, we were winning every week or not losing. We didn't lose a single league game. And we're doing really well in Europe as well. It almost felt this must be what everybody's getting just now, because you weren't meeting up with other people, other fans of other clubs. You weren't having to interact with people who supported somebody else, and you kind of instinctively felt everybody must be getting this. Everybody must be getting this service we're getting during lockdown, like the injections, like the Pfizer. Pfizer were supplying. Your club won't lose a game this season because you can't get to go to the football. So if you've got to just watch it via a screen, at least they're going to be winning all their games. But even watching Rangers during the most magnificent league title and the most significant of our entire history, and the most magnificent, I would imagine, since the one at the turn of the 20th century, where it was an 18-game league season. We won all 18 games. Even during that, the physical act of going to a football match, even though in my kind of day-to-day life, I was quite happy just dotting about, doing a bit of walking, doing a bit of exercise, losing weight, quite enjoying that. I still needed that. That was starting to tell on me as well, which led to me doing a couple of weird things. These were my lockdown moments where I went a bit crazy. There was that, and I got obsessed with when the bins had to go out. But there's this picture in front of Bob Crampsey's centenary anniversary book that he produced on behalf of the Scottish Football League in the year of their centenary, and there's a picture in the front of it, and that's Clyde playing at, I don't know if it's their original ground, it's certainly before they went to Shawfield or anything like that. It's Old Barrowfield Park. It's Clyde against St Mirren in 1894, and it's generally believed to be, I'm going to hold up again to the screen, the first photograph, the oldest photograph of Scottish football. Now, the thing for me, I'd actually read this in another book, which is it Jed O'Brien? That's terrible that I've had to think of his name, because he's an absolute genius when it comes to the history of Scottish football. I read a lot of his stuff, but he edits, or he wrote, it's the series that's edited by Simon Inglis, who's Britain's #1 football grounds guru. I really don't want to talk about the game. He produced the Played in Glasgow, the book that Played in Glasgow, all the different sporting venues you can find all around Glasgow, bowling greens to ice rinks, outdoor ice rinks and things like that, and certainly all the stadiums and stadiums of the past. And he pointed out, I'm going to try and show this to you, in the photograph in the background of this football match, see there's no nets, as it says in the caption, there's no nets on the goals, because the time that photograph was taken, 1894, goal nets had only kind of been introduced to football a few years previously by the same guy who designed the Mersey Tunnel. An Everton supporter, when Everton were still playing at Anfield, that he designed the goal nets, the VAR of its day. But in the background there's a double-barrelled roof, of a building there, an industrial building. That building's still there. Those roofs are still there. So, we're all bored during lockdown at various points in time. We're all at home, but as the kind of legislation, as the rules and regulations were changing, you could nip out. I was confined to Glasgow. I drove out there, and it's quite near Shawfield. I've never been to Shawfield. I never saw Clyde when they played at Shawfield. I've seen Clyde, but never seen them playing at Shawfield. That's always annoyed me. I meant to go to the Dugs. I meant to get a night at the Dugs so I could just say I'd been to Shawfield, but I never quite got into arranging that, going to a Dug meeting there. So I went out and I was looking about Shawfields and just kind of looking through the wee cracks in the wall, and it was a beautiful summer's day. It must have been during the summer. I'd taken photographs through the fence and stuff like that to just the pitch and the terrace and at Shawfield. There was people in the office there, working there, so I didn't want to start trying to break in, creep in and just go running about the old pitch. But that was the only thing that was stopping me. It was the levels of shame were disappearing through sheer desperation. But up at the top of it, in that same area, as I say, I found that building. I found that double-barrel building, and I drove about, and it's been kind of done up round about there. I don't know, you'll know if you know that area well. There's a big, I don't know if it's a council building or something, or a college, something round about there, but it's got a kind of parking area that's not been fully developed yet. It's still a bit of scrubland, and I'm sitting in the car in that area thinking, this is it. This is the pitch. This is the pitch that photograph was taken on. So I've not been to Shawfield. I've not seen Clyde playing at Shawfield, but I have been on their I think it's the original pitch, but certainly one of their older pitches, old Barrowfield. That was a kind of sad moment. I feel sad telling you about it just now, but I'm trying to make a point here. And there was also the day I went to, and I really enjoyed this. Rangers, did we beat Dundee United 4-0 and 4-1 at Ibrox, the two times we played them at Ibrox that season in the league. I think it was 4-0 and 4-1. I think it might be the day the guy put his studs through Morelos' thigh, whatever one of the games that was. There's a big hole in Alfredo Morelos' thigh, which they showed a close-up of on Rangers TV. But that morning, the game was kicking off at 3 o'clock. So that morning, just feeling fit as a fiddle and feeling all kind of perky, whatever, because I've not been drinking for about 2 or 3 months. I got into this routine. You had to get out of the house, that thing. We'd go places together, and then you would have moments where let's just go places separately on my own to kind of get away from each other. There's no driving each other mental. But I had that Saturday buzz, that need to just go and do the fit bar, whatever. But there was no football on, so what I did was I just recently discovered, in fact during lockdown, my missus and I discovered that old kind of Roman road, I forget the name of it, that takes you go up and then you drive, and you basically end up at this Roman road that takes you right to Stirling, to Stirling Castle, and there's the King's Park. I'd never seen this area of Stirling before, this area at the bottom of Stirling Castle. I'd only ever been in the kind of town side. And I'd been to Forth Bank as well, but I'd never got to Anfield, Stirling Albion's old ground, which is there's an old folks' home on it now. And there's also there's a kind of bits that back onto, I think think it's an old school or something like that, right? Another kind of creepy building, old building nearby, and I could see bits of it on photographs of Anfield, of Stirling Albion's old ground. I'd been to Fourth Bank, seen Stirling Albion, but I'd never been to their old Anfield ground, which really bothered me. And of course, Stirling Albion kind of took over from Kings Park, named after, I was into Kings Park, that area at Stirling Castle, who were the first team that Dundee United ever played, or as Dundee United, or were they the last team that Dundee United played as Dundee Hibernians? This is the stuff I was getting into at the time, looking up all these facts and becoming obsessed with them. So I found Anfield, the site of it, and the old folks' home and that whole bit, I think it's named Anfield Terrace, or Albion Drive and stuff like that, the streets round about. Wandering about. I stopped myself actually pretending I knew somebody in the old folks' home, especially during COVID. That would have been right out of order. But I was kind of dotting about that area and just like, right, I'm on this bit. Would have actually been the terrace and the home terrace and at the old Anfield Park where Stirling Albion played at Anfield Stadium, whatever they call it. So I did that, and then I went and I found a grid reference. There's a grid reference on Wikipedia for the site of Kings Park, the team that they got kind of disbanded during the war. They get bombed by the Luftwaffe, and the owner, who I think then went and set up Stirling Albion. It's kind of dodgy, but there's a grid reference to where their ground is, and it's near the big D&Ms that they have in Stirling, a wee kind of main road that goes down to Fourth Bank. And I went and I parked in the D&Ms, and I walked up this kind of grass banking, and that had me imagining that was a terrace. And I found it where the site of it was. There's a main road goes through it now, and it's just, there's a railway line nearby, and I was standing there going, this is the site I'm on. I've been in the site of Stirling Albion's ground, it's no longer there, and I've been in the site of Kings Park's ground. That's how much I love football. It gets to you, something that you've invested so much of your time in. You eventually get to the point you get kind of desperate, almost like some sort of addict who's you're at the injecting your eyeball stage, finding the last good vein for it to drop a horrible analogy when it comes to the football. Sometimes I just need to get to the game. I need to, and then there's nights like tonight which just make you think, fucking, what do I get back? What do I get? I mean, why did I? How you doing, folks? This is your fat ache immediate post. Danny Röhl has become. I think Danny Röhl has just become the first full-time permanent Rangers manager to lose his first competitive match in charge since Jock Wallace and Jock Wallace's second spell in charge of Rangers 42 years ago, just under. It was early November 1983, and he lost 3-0 to a bunch of Scandinavians in all red when Jock Wallace lost 3-0 at Aberdeen in the first game of his return back in November 1983. And this is, I'm pretty sure I probably got that wrong as well, on a night of massive mistakes from everybody in the Rangers family. And this is the first time I think that a full-time Rangers manager has lost his first competitive match in charge since Jock Wallace 42 years ago. Reaction Pod coming to you in association with Gersnet. Check out Gersnet tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, Friday nights. I don't know who's on it, sorry. But my God, they've got their work cut out for them, and they'll be having to do more than just look ahead to the Kilmarnock game. I don't know why I'm pitying them, because I'm going to have to do the same again, do a Kilmarnock preview pod, and I just... So check that out. I'm sponsored by Gersnet, and I'm also sponsored by Curly Wurlies. Curly Wurlies, that's it's a horrible thing. And I don't know when heroin first came to Scotland. I've always wanted to know that, actually, and it's a terrible. It feels kind of out of order, but it's a massive problem. As somebody who's part of the obesity epidemic hitting the west of Scotland, I've got some sort of, I know about having a really unhealthy life and all that, but obviously the heroin's a far more serious, far darker kind of thing. Unless you're really rich, of course. There's lots of, your Mick Jaggers and all these kind of guys, lots of really rich guys who get away with having heroin habits because they've got enough money around about. Was it two guys for it was the average white band? The average white band, it was Cher, that one of them died. I think the boys, it's kind of Perth, Tayside area, and one of them died a heroin overdose at a party. And the other one had his life saved by Cher, who was at the party. Sonny and Cher, and she actually saved it. quite a mental thing. That just, I know one guy didn't make it, but it just shows you the difference of being surrounded by money and. But I remember as a kid, there was it's probably famous, a documentary. I've always been honestly really interested when the heroin came in and the hardcore drugs, because I've grown up, I don't think I'm actually an alcoholic at any point, but I certainly will be to some people, maybe a binge drinker, habitually, through most of my adult life. I like to get bevied, so I'm sort of at low-level alcoholism probably for myself, but that thing with society, you feel when you're getting bevied that there is a kind of history, a legacy, a kind of tradition almost of getting wrecked as a Scottish person, particularly a West of Scotland person, and I've always been really interested in when I see evidence of it all around me. Mary Hill's quite close by and all that, and it's terrible to say, but if you live anywhere in Britain, you will see people walking about who are clearly been ravaged by heroin. They're the lucky ones because they're still walking about. But I've always been interested when that came in and that took over, and just the change it affected society-wise. I'm assuming it'd be late 60s or whatever, when the heroin came in, took over from the people who kind of drink themselves out of house and home, then just hit the proper hardcore stuff, and that was that, and society changed another wee bit. But I remember seeing this documentary when I was a kid, and I was like 10 in 1979, so it probably run about then. And as a fella, it was the first time I'd ever heard about this, the first time I ever knew about it. And I think my parents were sitting kind of watching it as well, going, my dad loved that drink and all that, and I come from proper working class kind of family and that background where it was hard working but also kind of hard drinking. And we were watching it, and there's a guy sitting in his bed, a hospital bed, and it was the first time I'd ever heard anybody talking about this. And just talking about it was Glaswegian, and talking about the drugs, talking about the heroin, and just being really matter of fact about it. And he was sort of selling everything in his house and all that, and going in the rob and stuff to fund it. And then it was the bit about how you just get to the point where you just need to. The bit I always remember was him talking about, I think it was his girlfriend had to inject him in between his toes, or in between his or in his eyeball. I think somebody else was their eyeball. That probably can't happen. I'm probably imagining that, but it was something horrific because there's other veins. It was kind of tapped out. There's no good veins left, or something like that. It's just that's unbelievable. As somebody is morbidly obese and as a chocolate addict as well as being addicted to serious other things, there's no way I could cope. I could never come off the drugs. If I had one snort of coke or one injection of heroin, that would be me. I'd be gone completely within about 6 months because I'm a very addictive personality. But I would say the Curly Wurly has become the equivalent of injecting yourself between your toes, really, for the chocolate addicts. It's so depressing. It's been so brutal. The Rangers this week. Yeah, I'm going to make that horrifically inappropriate kind of segue, a comparison, a direct analogy between somebody whose life has been ravaged by hardcore Class A drugs and me having a Curly Wurly, because I was thinking the other night, it's just been so hard this season. It's been so traumatic. You keep waiting for, it's made worse by the fact that it should be so good on paper. Everything should be fine because we've got the money now, we've got the financial backing, and I'm like, it's going to be fine. It's going to be fine. It isn't. Oh, we've got a new manager and we've got a new head coach. That's fine. So that was just a mistake getting Russell. Man, it isn't fine. It isn't. And it's getting really tiring because I have to do these massive podcasts all the time because there's a ongoing trauma all the time. There's different, even trying to get a new manager has been turned into a massive trauma, whether it's true or not. The support have decided it is, so you got to pod about that as well. And you feel the need to get out there and get your thoughts out into the general argument, the general discussion amongst the Rangers family. And it's tiring, it's brutal. So I'm doing more and more of my particular drug of choice during the week, which is the chocolate, or I like sweet stuff, little cake, the McGee's cakes. And I'm dying. I'm eating myself to death. I'm over 24 stone now, and it's just getting out of hand. I'm going to have to chuck it. I'm going to start getting myself out in the morning and no sit doing these ranting pods. And you're hoping that Rangers will help you by just starting to play football again and getting kind of reasonable Rangers type results, so we can just talk about the football all the time, not all these massive traumas that are affecting us. And the Curly Wurly, that was the only thing. Like my wife had got it, I think because she's a school teacher. I think somebody at school had dished them out, and it was this Curly Wurly. And they're tiny now compared to when I remember them, probably the exact same size, but when I was a kid, Curly Wurlies were massive, but this was a kind of tiny thing, and I'd ran out of my McGee's 4-pack of Empire biscuits, and then I was going to make jokes about how Danny Röhl we'll go back to calling them German biscuits now, because Danny Röhl's going to be ruling the Rangers Empire. And I'd run out the McGee's the 4 tarts. You get the strawberry, the pineapple cake, and I'd run out of that. It'd be fern cake, and there was no chocolate in the actual bars of chocolate in the house. And I was just, I'm going to have to do a podcast. I need something. My wife's with, I've got that curly whirly there. She's not about a chocolate eater at all. He said, that curly whirly's there if you want it. I was going to have it the weekend, but obviously it doesn't mean as much to me as it does to you. You need it now. And it was like, yeah, I need it. And it was just, I think it's because of my teeth now. I'm more gums than teeth, really. And you're getting the chocolate hit, but the toffee makes it all clinging to the inside of your mouth and all that. You can never quite kind of swallow in. And it's just, it was making it, I felt as if that's... My name's Alexandersson. What else should I be? All apologies. What else could I say? Everyone is gay. What else could I write? I don't have the right. That's Dan. Dan. No, I think we've missed them all. We'll get him later. Dan. My name's Alexandersson. I'm here to talk to you about Rangers having lost by 3-0 against Brann Bergen in Norway in our third match of the 2025-2026 UEFA Europa League group stage, meaning we have lost 6 straight European games. And I think also, as well as competitive debut, Danny Röhl's first game in charge of Rangers sees him become the first Rangers manager, full-time permanent Rangers manager, to lose his first European game in charge of Rangers since Ali McCoist 14 years ago, July 2011. That was also lost to your Scandinavian types when Malmo beat us at Ibrox. Was that one? Henrik Larsson, the guy was called that scored the only goal that night. Like Barry Ferguson, even last season, taking over as temporary manager, Fenerbahce, beating them 3-1, going on 10-1 in Kadikoy. That is Sukru Sarakoglu, the Asian side of the Bosphorus. That was phenomenal. European debut for Barry as a manager. Philip Clement, it was a 0-0 in the Letna, wasn't it, against Sparta Prague? A really hard fought and disciplined, impressive 0-0 we got over there, which I think the previous game was under Steve Davis's temporary management. We lost to Aris Limassol in Cyprus, really humiliating. So that was a good one, a kind of consolidating performance, very promising. Michael Beale, he got a kind of paltry 2-1 home win over Servette. That was his debut. That was his European debut, wasn't it? I know he played against Bayer Leverkusen, a friendly in the first match in charge of Rangers. Gave him a bit of a gubbin, believe it or not, but that was his first competitive European game in charge, wasn't it? Beating Servette 2-1 in the first leg of that Champions League kind of qualifier. Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, his debut as Rangers manager, he beats Sparta Prague 2-0. Sparta Prague again. He had to beat them. That was his competitive debut as well. Beat them 2-0 at Ibrox. We had to beat them by 2 clear goals to progress after a terrible start. And we go all the way to a European final that season. Even Pedro Caixinha, they did win the first leg. His first European game in charge, did win the first leg against Progress Niederkorn, didn't he? I think Ali's the last one. I'm sure Ali in 2011 taking over from Walter. He drew with Hearts, I think, in the league before that, but his first European game in charge of Rangers was... I don't know. I really don't know what to... Snagging items from last night. There was... I didn't mention the predicted lineup or I predict the score. If I was going to predict the score, I was going to say 0-0. I thought it was going to be 0-0. I didn't mention last night's preview pod, which was kind of consumed by and subsumed into a ranting kind of 1 hour long chat about the press conference we had on Tuesday announcing Danny Röhl, presenting Danny Röhl as the new head coach, but also letting our sporting director, our chief executive and our chairman take questions from the media. That was a kind of dominant factor of that press conference. But in discussing all that, I forgot to mention, it was more because I just thought, Danny Röhl says there's going to be changes, and let him make the changes. I was going to start trying to guess. I'd never seen the guy managing before, so I had no idea what he was going to do, what his starting lineup was going to be. No pressure on Danny at all, as far as I was concerned. But he said that within the first 10 seconds, he likes to try and get a goal within the first 10 seconds. Does Danny Röhl, or tell the team, try and score within the first 10 seconds, and if you don't, well, at least you've created the momentum. That's what you're up to. So he's failed in his first target there. Even if we did go up, 1-0 in 9 seconds, and it's no Chermiti who scores that goal, it's got Thelwell. There's no end to the reasons we have for slagging Rangers employees. So why do we have to help them? Why do we have to find more reasons? The starting 11 that he did put out tonight, Danny Röhl, was just 2 changes from Saturday's lineup against Dundee United. He dropped Derek Cornelius, which I think... I was talking to a friend, also called Derek, who got in touch the other day. He knows I'm big into my German football. He's a big fan of the German classics as well. Gerd Müller is a kind of joint statistical hero of ours, and he wore the number 13 jersey that was also worn by his hero, Max Morlock, in a World Cup final that he scored in, and Gerd Müller scores in a World Cup final wearing number 13. And, it's also worn by Thomas Müller, of Bayern Munich also, who's top scorer a World Cup for Germany, and so on and so forth. Lots of 13s doing the business for Germany. And I thought, Derek Cornelius is wearing the 13. Danny Röhl's probably going to come in and look at that and think, no, the strikers next. I'm going to buy a striker next season, a German striker, and we'll give him the number 30. He's dropped anyway. He dropped Derek Cornelius, and he brought in Nasser Giga, who hasn't played for a wee while, to come in at centre half, and Chermiti, big Chermiti, the focus of so much fan discontent about our recruitment policy, 8 to 10 million from Everton. He comes in to play in front of Bojan Majowski. Majowski dropped to the bench as the striker. It looked like a kind of 4-2-3-1 he was playing tonight, as opposed to the 4-2-1-3 of Russell Martin. Danny Röhl, in his pre-match presser, his pre-match interview on TNT Sport, is it Matt Smith, that chap's called, who had a bit of a really tense time, a really tetchy interview last match day in the Europa League with the outgoing Russell Martin after the defeat to Sturm Graz. And he was quite kind of, I felt maybe a bit sarcastic, maybe having a go at Russell Martin when he was pointing out to Danny Röhl, you're looking really smart. You're looking very smart with your tie and your jumper and your blazer and that. It's obviously a comment on the fact that we insist on the manager wearing this suit, and Russell Martin didn't. But he just handled it so well, Danny Röhl. I think it was a kind of testament to what he is. It's an example of the enthusiasm that he brought to us all, just with his press conferences. I'm worried an enthusiasm we're going to kick out of him straight away. But he kind of laughed about it. He was like, yeah, no, basically he was saying, I know, I'm a total tramp, what's this all about? It's great. But I respect the traditions of the club, and I'm really liking it. I'm enjoying it. He's so self-effacing. A young man, only kind of mid to late 30s, and he's mature. It's in the way he talks, very intelligent, and he's kind of disarmingly, kind of self-effacing. The way he approached that, I mean, he's got this big quiff of hair that's almost the same height as his massive forehead, but he's so cheery and positive, and it was nice. It was a nice moment. I still had that buzz, thinking, yes, it's going to be good. He's going to be absolutely fine. We're in the tunnel there. It's a kind of disco effect at Bergen's ground, disco tunnel and all reds, and it's a bit. You think, well, Ibrox is the same. We've got that blue light. It's kind of low blue light nightclub effect when at the tunnel at Ibrox. Before we go onto the park, the camera in there was a thing above their tunnel saying Bergen Stolthet. I don't know what that means, but I know what it eventually meant for us tonight. Anyway, their kind of their kit, all red kit, Brand Bergen. It's that kind of it's a cheap looking all reds that both Nike and Scandinavian clubs seem to specialise in. There's also somebody else as well does that. It looks more kind of Johnston Borough than Liverpool. And that. In fact, that Johnston Borough, plenty of money. Their all red looks absolutely classy. Sorry about that. And Keaney Park's one of the best venues in the whole of world football, as far as I'm concerned. It's a belter of a ground, when it's not like a sponge that's soaked. They sorted out the drainage there. It's the most. I tried to go about 4 times, and it's the postponements at Keaney Park. But anyway, it's Kyle Laffert, that's played there. Guys that have scored in Europe for Rangers have played for Johnston Borough. But is that kind of, there's so many Norwegian Liverpool fans, you would think they would know a classy all red kit, but it's a way they managed to keep it kind of matte, and it just doesn't look. It's like a club with no history. A club that there's no sense of history. There's another club. Is it? Am I thinking of Salzburg, RB Salzburg? And they threw when they were Casino Salzburg, and technically they're still the same club. They did get to the '94 UEFA Cup finals. They do have a history, and of course they've massively dominated the Austrian Bundesliga. And maybe is it 20 in the Netherlands, who've also lost the UEFA Cup final back in the day, back in '75. They lost to Borussia Mönchengladbach, and they have won the league in the Netherlands. But it's a kind of, they're not really the most famous, and they somehow managed to keep the kit looking, not cheap's maybe the wrong word, but it's no. I don't want to talk about the game. Basically, this was, we're there and we're maybe the cheapest kit of the lot tonight. That third choice thing we're wearing, that kind of all grey Humphrey Brothers number that we're wearing, disturbingly kind of Sturm Graz looking at first, but then it's close up, it's not even as impressive as Sturm Graz's kit from our last Europa League out, and it's kind of grey with a bit of blue trim, different shades of gunmetal grey, whatever kind of grey, ash. It was just, it wasn't nice, but you make a kit nice by playing well, and it wasn't going to happen. We're hearing how this was it's only the second time that Bergen have ever reached a UEFA group stage, and the last time was the same season we got to the final in Manchester, the UEFA, but we got there via the Champions League group stage that season, but they got there. They got to the last 32, I think, of the UEFA Cup, the old 5-team UEFA Cup group stage, when they tried that out for a while, UEFA, and they got to the last 32, and they get gubbed 8-1 by Everton on an aggregate, gubbed 8-1. So this was only the second UEFA group game they'd had at their ground in 17 years. We go kind of 14 years between finals in this competition, but if Utrecht on match day 2 for them, they beat Utrecht 1-0 in their first home game of this group stage this season. So we know what it's like to go a long way without group stage football, and the validation it gives you as a club. So this would be, Utrecht would be the Rapid Vienna, the night we had against Rapid Vienna, beating them 3-1, getting back in the group stage under Stevie G 2018. Well, we were supposed to be Spartak Moscow, which was our second home game, and it's 0-0. I thought 0-0 was going to be my prediction for the score. We'd never conceded a goal to a Norwegian club before. We never lost to a Norwegian club, and I thought, Paul Le Guen's first game in Europe, first game in charge of Rangers in Europe was a 0-0 in Molde in Norway. I thought that'll be fine. That'll do absolutely fine to stabilise things. But you're kind of hoping maybe he's a total guru, Danny Röhl. He can turn this roundable. Tav's 60th appearance, I think, in the Europa League group stages. I think that's really significant. I think he might have equalled the record, and it's a record held by a Red Bull Salzburg player, so hopefully he'll beat the record against Roma in a very prestigious match in a couple of weeks' tonight, but maybe not if he plays the way he did tonight, a bad game, but they all did, didn't they? A kind of Aberdeenish tifo thing going on. It was a bit, the ground looked, I think it holds just over 17,000. It's just over 17 years since we're in the group stages. They're kind of very symmetrical, but it's like if maybe Aberdeen took the Dick Donald stand, the top tier of it, and they shoved it up on the main stand, it would have the same kind of set up there. Very intimate, and making it's a big night for Brann Bergen, and it's still it's flattering for us that they consider us a big club to be playing. But how was he going? What we're going to go to say was it's kind of 4-2-3-1. He seemed to be setting up with Asgard. Dello Asgard was going into kind of 10 position. He's more over to the right than the left, if anything, more central than he was on Saturday. And that's something that annoyed people. I think that when Russell Martin did it, we had Ant-Man on the right-hand side, wide on the right, and Gassam, the Gas, wide on the left. So that was your attacking three, with Chermiti up front on his own, but obviously getting support from the very big, very physically impressive. He's really physically impressive, but he looks facially, I think with the hair in particular, I can't help but he reminds me of what's her name, the wee lassie that does the lassie that does the protesting, is it the environmentalist, and Greta Thunberg. He looks like when Greta Thunberg had the cornrows first, very similar looking to her. But that's at the back it was Jack Butland in goals, Tav at right back, Magoma at left back. You had Nasser Giga and John Suter in central defence, and it was Raskin and Rothwell Raskin and Joe Rothwell, the sitting two in midfield, but Nico Raskin would drop back between the centre halves. Joe Rothwell, he's supposed to ball on, didn't do a lot of it tonight, I would imagine. I think the 7th minute, we did them straight away. How's it going to go under the new gaffer, under the new... Well, we did them straight away, 11 seconds. We didn't get the goal in 11 seconds, but from centre, from kick-off, it was a wee kind of, and they went too early. The guy runs into our half too early, and the ref has to stop. That's just a feint of the shoulders from Nico Raskin, and then Raskin knocks the ball back to Jack Butland after the false start. Jack Butland hits it long up to the big man up front, and basically just kind of more or less goes straight out. So that's the 11-second scoring within 10 seconds. That's failed. But it's the 7th minute. JD Gassama beats his man and is turned round and is basically facing the goals. Who's coming in? He's the whole 6-yard box in front of him. He turns his man right in the byline, and it's just, he's got the goal or setting somebody up at his mercy, and he just completely scuffs his cross. And this was a theme. They're looking kind of feisty. We're kind of far from perfect, and maybe I'm just imagining this because I'm so psyched about Danny Röhl, but we looked a bit more compact, a bit more organised. But 8 minutes in, Raskin has a couple of goals from a couple of straight corners that we won, a header and a shot, which looked like good chances, couldn't quite put it away. That's not bad. It's not as if we're completely out the game or anything like that. We're definitely competing. When about the 11th minute, there's a point-blank block by somebody, I don't know if it's John Suter or whatever, in our box. It's getting busy in our box. They're putting a bit of pressure on us, and it's a shot that needs... We'll get the bodies flying left, right and centre, and one of them blocks it. That's digging in. There's a new kind of fortitude about us. About 16th minute, we let a cross from our right-hand side go to the back. We just don't cut it out at all. Cross to the back post, gets headed back across goal, and there's a weak header from point-blank range, really straight at Jack Butland. Looks like a good save at first, but he really does have to say it's down to their player not being able to convert it at all. And from the 18th to about the 28th minute, Nico Raskin gets a head knock at that point, and he gives the ball away in his own box, but we get away with it. But I'm thinking, is he concussed? And it's all kind of Brann Bergen. Giga doesn't get closed on his man at the front post. He gets a shot away. Jack Butland manages to save it from the tight angle. But they can't finish. And you're starting to think, this is not Russell Martin's first game in charge. A European game. Russell Martin's first game in charge at Rangers was a European game, and they beat Panathinaikos 2-0 at Ibrox, but they had about 25 chances every minute and couldn't score any of them. And there was much the same in the second leg as well, which we drew, which was his second competitive game in charge of Rangers. But no... You think maybe the guy Magnusson, who's I think a top scorer in Europe this season, the Icelandic chap who was on the bench for Iceland when they beat Scotland 3-1. And a friendly at the end of last season, I went to beat Scotland 3-1 at Hampden. He's been scoring plenty of goals for them. Their only goals so far in the Europa League group stage before kick-off tonight. He wasn't there. I don't know if he's suspended. I don't know if he's injured. He wasn't even on the bench. I'm thinking maybe that was it. Maybe he's the only guy who can score goals for them. We're doing well here. And then about just before the half hour, we started getting a period of real pressure for a good 3-4 minutes. Asgard, Fluff, middle of the goals, totally unmarked, kind of 15 yards out, played this kind of elongated 1-2 with Tav. He's coming from deep. Asgard, middle of the park, knocks it out wide to Tav, who finds him with a brilliant ball, the only brilliant ball Tav played all night. He finds him perfectly, and he's basically just, there's nobody around him. There's guys deeper in the box for Brann Bergen, but he's maybe 15-16 yards out, basically in line with the penalty spot, and it's just, he tries to take it first time, but it doesn't even get a shot away. It just almost falls over the ball. Totally mishits it like Gassama with that cross in the 7th minute. 31st minute, a terrible miss from Chermiti. Raskin, a peach of a ball from deep. Nico Raskin goes to it's kind of towards the back post. It's really almost centre of the goals, really, from about 8 yards out. He's in glorious isolation as Chermiti, and he's so big as well, and he can't get the purchase on the ball. It's a weak ass header. I think it just goes straight into the goalkeeper's hands. But it's the pressure that everybody at Rangers is on just now to see Chermiti getting a goal. That was it. I thought he was really unlucky against Sturm Graz. It's not unlucky. There's no such thing as luck as far as I'm concerned. But he in football, but he looked a bit raw in a few more games. He was going to start hitting the goals, and that was poor. In the past couple of performances, that was poor tonight. That was his only moment, really. That might have been the only shot we had on target all night. We only got one on target. That might have been it. 32nd minute, Ant-Man goes away down the right-hand side. Great ball across the face of the goal. No takers. There's nobody Alan McCoy was saying he should have gone to the back post instead of going through the middle. Gassama can't quite get there. It was a perfect ball. Ant-Man played across the goal, right across the 6-yard box. Nobody took it at all. 34th minute, Tav doesn't get the bends on his pass back to, I don't know if it's Butland or to one, he's centre half, the ball goes straight out. We save the initial corner. Butland punches it clear, about 30 yards out, and they come in and have a shot that goes, a wonder shot that goes straight into the top corner. No, it's just called away, just missed going into the top corner. 36 minutes, Conman, I was calling him Conman. It's the guy Korvig that plays up front for them. He tries to get Gassama sent off, done by the Rangers fans, done by the Gervin Union flag in the corner there, the away corner. I don't know why VAR can't red card fellas who try to, get an opponent sent off by faking so blatantly and faking a head injury, faking a facial injury. This is, that's out of order. That's completely out of order. That's something that can end up, somebody will get a facial injury, head injury, and not a boy who cried wolf stuff. If they won't get the treatment as quickly as possible, there'll be cynicism on the part of the referee. It's just something that should be stamped out straight away, and I absolutely am going on about that because this guy, a few minutes later, scores for us. At least it should have been yellow carded anyway for his part in that. Gassam just puts his arm on the guy's shoulder, just basically pulls at the shoulder of his sleeve. Instantly, he's spinning through the air, clutching his face. It was disgusting. When you saw it in slow motion, it was particularly disgusting. Butland, Raskin, Rothwell, a few minutes later, they kind of play themselves into trouble. And Butland's got to foul a guy, but the Bergen free kick that they have about 30 yards out, only got a 2-man wall, and they chip the ball into our box, and it gets a bit kind of cloth-touchingly close, but a bit scrappy, but we clear it, and I'm thinking, that's a moment, makes you think about the Sturm Graz free kick that they scored from in the first half that was an absolute car crash for us. Is that a bit of sharpness being injected? We've got rid of Russell Martin, we're going to, is it symbolic? Is it? No. It wasn't. It felt like it at the time, but about 40th minute, it was 2 minutes later, they scored. Tav is high. Tav is high up the park on the right-hand side. He always has been. That's what he plays. He plays it right back. He's got occasional moments at centre half and in midfield, but he's playing high. And I think he must have been because Nico Raskin kept dropping in between the centre halves. Very good header of the ball, Nico Raskin, so his lack of height physically shouldn't be a problem when it comes to that. It looks like he's been told to get back there and give a bit of width at the centre half area so that obviously we can. But we're firing the ball to the fullbacks all night, so I'm assuming Tav is supposed to be high up the park. That's his orders, but it's not even like they put it in the channel. It was a ball from their own half. They didn't play it. Brann Bergen, they hit it from their own half. They didn't even hit the kind of channel between Tav and John Suter, between the fullback and the centre half. They just put it behind Tav, where Tav should be, where your fullback should be. And even then, the fellow who gets on the end of it, he doesn't know whether to cross it or shoot. He's bearing down on goal, getting into the box, and I think he's trying to shoot from the tight angle, and he just sclaffs it off whoever. They get a sclaff, but it actually works out positively, and it goes across the face of the goal. And because Jack Butland and everybody else has gone to the fellow who's going to be credited with the assist, the big Korvig just walks into an empty net from about 3 yards out, open goal. Ant-Man, it's like the first time we've ever conceded to a Norwegian team, and it's a Dane that scores for them, and we've got a Norwegian in the park who can't score in Norway. And despite a lot of kind of impressive, intricate build-up play up to that point at various times from Brann Bergen, it was just a ball over the top, acres of space that totally undone us with a bit of a mess. Ant-Man, just before half-time, he picks out Asgard again. At that same part of their box, just in front of the penalty spot, just behind the penalty spot, about 16, 18 yards out, middle of the goal, and he fluffs it again. He doesn't get the shot away again. He falls over the ball almost. It's just no changes at half time. Chilamiti wins a corner, and about 2 minutes into the second half, we do absolutely nothing with it, and they've got poor touches in defence and in attack, and they're starting to bully us. Rory Hamilton says, I don't know that bullying is. I think we're just basically incompetent. And then the 54th minute, it'll take some 9 minutes of the second half, it's 2-0. Mikey Moore's warming up in the subs bench. I don't know if it's the fact that Ant-Man sees Mikey Moore warming up and thinking he's coming on for me. I don't know what was said to him at half time. That maybe distracts him, but he loses the ball. He's on attack, basically, Ant-Man, on the right-hand side for us, down the Brann Bergen wing, and the left back just takes it off him. And next thing, he's in our half, and he's going down our right-hand side. And Ant-Man takes him out of his frustration or whatever, but he takes him out at a point it's negligent, because as soon as they won the free kick, as soon as Ant-Man gives him the free kick, there's just a look in his face as well from Ant-Man. Total frustration, almost depression from him when he makes that foul. You're thinking, yeah, they're going to just put this ball into the box and they're going to score, and they did. It's a perfect spot for a right-footed kind of in-swinger, and the marking's horrific. The fella Sorensen who scores, he doesn't even have to head it, because I know off his shoulder, which probably helps it, because it cuts off and goes straight downwards. The purchase of a header would probably put it a bit higher, but Magoma's kind of pretending to mark him like I'm pretending to make a mark in life. It's just not happening at all. And then the substitution does happen. The substitution happens straight after that, before we can restart. Moore comes on for Ant-Man, and it's Raskin releases Magoma in the 60th minute, puts Magoma down the left-hand side, overlapping our full-back. He puts another perfect ball across the goal onto the feet of a Rangers attacker in the box, and it's fluffed again. It's Mikey Moore. I think he's practically in the 6-yard box, the 6-yard line, and he middle of the goal, he gets under it and puts it over the bar. When it's just, it maybe leans back a bit or whatever, but it's at this level, it's basic stuff. We shouldn't have that amount of space. It's kind of proven to me that this isn't a great team we're playing against. Terrible, absolutely horrific miss. That's probably our last chance of taking in from the game. Double substitution, 64th minute. Asgard goes off, Rothwell goes off, Majowski comes on for Asgard, and Connor Barron comes on for Rothwell. So we're not taking Chermiti off. We've got two strikers up front. Are we going 4-4-2? I think we probably went 4-4-2. Doesn't matter what we did. We've got two strikers on, and we look, if anything, even more kind of stretched and lightweight. They start strutting about, Brann. They start strutting the ball, strutting about. They look like guys who aren't used to being in this situation. They're trying to get used to it in European terms. They're managing just a few kind of audible olays. The crowd, they're starting to love it, and you're thinking, this is they're showboating a bit too early, but it does really look more likely that they'll score than us salvaging even our pride, far less our first point of the group stage. Tav can't hit anyone with a pass. Terrible distribution all night from James Tavernier, apart from that one ball he played to Asgard in the first half. Kind of 73, 74 minutes, Magoma, he gives it away in his own half in a defensive area, really bad, just basically panics, gives the ball away, and then winning it back, we do win it back. It invites a horrific tackle from Pedersen, which looks like it could have been a red card. Pedersen getting in with the studs up on Majowski. We didn't get to see a replay of it close up. The Norwegian TV director decided not to show us that. That was a weird one. But yeah, that was, I don't know, it wouldn't have got a red card, probably just, I've got our own player injured. That was the way things were going tonight. Double substitution, 76th minute, Cornelius goes off. It comes on, Derek Cornelius comes on for Nasser Giga, who'd gone down, looking like he was injured. He's probably just tired. He's probably getting cramping up. Hasn't played for a while, and he's been asked to, I think the manager keeps talking about speed and intensity. We need speed and intensity, so he's probably wanted Giga on for his greater speed than Derek Cornelius, and has asked him to be quite intense from the off, ringing. This is, remember this happened under Philip Clement when he came in at first. The players weren't fit enough for him, and he's just kind of like screwing the arse at them, making them run far faster than they had in their tank. But maybe you got a suspicion he might be copping out as well, just trying to get away from this ongoing disaster of a game. Danilo comes on for Chermiti, so we've still got two strikers in the park. We've just swapped Danilo. Who is Danilo? Where's Danilo? Have you heard of him? And we didn't see anything from him at all. 2 minutes later, 2 or 3 minutes later, that was 3-0 to Brann Bergen. They walk it in, and we help them. The goalie just rolls it out, knocks the ball out to their left back, who does a kind of pantomime dipping of the shoulder, as if showing somebody who's never played football before. This is what you would do if you're trying to beat somebody, but in slow motion. I'll slow it down for you. This is what a winger would do if he slow. But whoever it was, he was trying to, I think it was Majowski, we're just running about in front of them, really, making out that we're going to try and tackle them, and he just pushes the ball up to the fella in the inside left channel, who pushes on with Connor Barron just on the park. Connor Barron, he's just jogging about as if I'll just be in the general area, and this means that Tav has then got to come towards the fella who's getting towards our box. No chance of getting to him, and obviously the first thing the fella does is he knocks it out to their outside left, who's now got acres of space to put the cross in because Tav's been sucked in. This club's done. So the club's not done. The team's done. The team is done. The club feels done, but it's not. It's in the best position the club has been for 20 odd years. Since the early part of David Murray's reign, even in terms of the financial stability and the people we've got backing us now. But the team that we've got out there just looks like it's over. And the fact that our most valuable asset, Nico Raskin, is the very one who gets the assist basically for this third goal, the kind of coup de grace, and a role he's been given to get in between the centre halves. His own centre half, but he gets in front of a centre half, Derek Cornelius, who's just on the park. It's probably not warmed up properly, probably not as positionally sharp as he would like to be. Maybe Nico Raskin isn't listening to a shout from Derek Cornelius. Maybe the shout didn't come from Derek Cornelius, who's right behind Raskin and would have been able to deal with the ball quite easily. It was a poor ball. Or maybe Nico Raskin's doing that thing that I think he's kind of guilty of as well, was just the Barry Ferguson, I'm the star here type thing. Barry from 20 odd years ago as a player, just visibly or tacitly doubting his teammates, and you can't really blame him, I'd imagine, and deciding to intervene in stuff that he shouldn't. He knocks the ball away from Derek Cornelius towards the chap. Was it Noah Holm? Noah Holm. So Noah, he confirms it's a flood of goals by knocking it home or something like that. But he has all the time in the world. He basically takes the ball just to put the boot in. He gets the ball put to him on a plate by Nico Raskin, but it's at the very same spot in the very same box where twice in the first half Thelo Asgard couldn't control the ball, couldn't hit the ball properly first time in the same amount of space. He's got time to take a touch. This fella, who was at RB Leipzig as a youth, probably just at the time Danny Röhl was leaving RB Leipzig, and he just knocks the thing straight in. There's nothing else. Right through the whole defence, right through everybody else in the box, right through kind of unsighted Jack Butland. It's just, it just looks like they've walked it in, and they basically have, and we've helped them. There's nothing after that. That's about the 79th, 80th minute, and there's nothing after that except on about the 90th minute. There's a beautiful Abide With Me style hymn from the home supporters who are having a great night, and fair play to them. I don't really. Do you remember that? You'll maybe not remember this, especially kind of younger fans. I'll not remember this. There was a beautiful moment in Rangers history when we got Danny Röhl in as new head coach, and the optimism was like a golden era. The optimism, he was all kind of enthusiastic and all that, and he's been unveiled to the press. And then he did a Rangers TV interview, and he did a press conference on the Tuesday, and then the Tuesday afternoon he did another Rangers TV interview, and then he was on the TNT Sport. Like, oh God, this is going to be aggressive, and they were all so happy and enthusiastic. It seems like ages. You probably don't remember it. It was 48 hours ago. 48 hours ago, and now it's just we sack the manager. No, I think he's got an excuse for now. Sack the owners. Oh God, no, we love Cavan. We love Cavan Parag, don't we? No, Cavaliero Sticana and Pagliacci. We love Cavan Parag. The owners are absolutely fine. We know when to stop. We're slaggins, but Thelwell and Stewart, those banners are going to be back out on Sunday, and once again, the banners are going to be out with the big crosses through them. Nobody's giving them to January, next transfer window. The pressure will be on them straight away, and it's like, once again, my unashamedly wanting the best for my club and instinctively sticking up for our players and the managers can be portrayed as being part of the problem. Desser's got the absolute shit slagged at him. Cyril Desser's for 2 seasons, Rangers, and what now for his European goals? This is something Rory Hamilton was pointing out in commentary, and it bears repeating because it also speaks to this, why I'll sometimes I'll balk at the tone and level of criticism being thrown at Rangers people. The 8 to 10 million pound we've spent on Chermiti, maybe we could have been better using that to keep Václav Černý. His class and his goals, his steady stream of goals for Rangers last season, his steady stream of assists, the steady threat that he presented to keep opposition defences occupied. But we slagged him rotten. The crowd were baying at him during the game against Lyon just over a year ago when we get beat 4-1 at home by Lyon in this group stage. And there was Hamza Igaman, his goals last season, his skills. Why are we buying a guy for Morocco? Why are we getting a guy for Casablanca? Why are we getting a player for Rabat? Why are we getting a player from a league we've never heard of, with the name of a club we've never heard of. It's just an absolute. The negativity can end up undermining us. It really can if it goes in too early and too scattergun. And it's like sometimes we get totally raging because things aren't perfect. I remember Chris Boyd's got to play in the Champions League, being a campaign against Walter Smith's the sine qua non as far as we're concerned, guys of my age of management. But through his reign, even his second reign, where he was just at his peak as a manager, he was phenomenal in the things he was doing, with no budget as well. Chris Boyd scores against Aberdeen in that, though. How can he not score against Barcelona? Stuff. Why is he not playing him against? I sometimes get a bit upset, a bit wary when the criticism can end up doing us harm. But it's all got a point now, hasn't it? It's all got a point. The criticism we've been hearing over the last few days, we've been hearing all season, we're not going to play again before the clocks go back. So that's it. We can now kind of quantify comprehensively that age-old gripe, which always features the end of October. It's the end of the early season, really. I mean, the clocks haven't even gone back yet, and yet our season started so early in 2025, 2026 that it means that the clocks haven't even gone back yet, and we've played 19 games. We've won 5 of them, drawn 7 and lost 7. We've 6 straight European defeats. One of the games that we have won, one of the 5 games out of 19 that we have won, is against League One Alloa, and they gave us a bit of a game that day. And one of those wins, one of those 5 wins, is in the league. Just one of those 5 wins is in the Scottish Professional Football League Premiership. Remember when Danny Röhl's press conferences just made us all feel optimistic? It seems like a lifetime ago. This is when the plan was supposed to start kicking in. This is when it was supposed to. When Russell Martin came in, it was going to take a few months, and I was like, right, get November, and then I'll start panicking if it's still not working. Well, it showed that it wasn't going to be working in next November. Never mind this November. But Danny Röhl comes in, and it looks further away than ever. That plan, there's no signs of it whatsoever. When I think back in the Genk game, just a few weeks, we played Genk at Ibrox, our first group game in this season's Europa League. Even though I was at that game, and even though there was still a seriously decent crowd at Ibrox, it wasn't a full house by any manner of means, but it was still up towards the 40,000, if not over the 40,000 mark. I think of that game, or rather, I kind of instinctively picture it rather than think it. I feel that game as a game during lockdown. And yet lockdown was, 5 years ago. This is just a few weeks ago. But it's like, when I think about the memory I have of it, is if there's nobody else in the stadium. Even though I'm in the bloody stadium, the kind of perversity of that is that we're absolutely brilliant at Ibrox during lockdown. We were brilliant, and in Europe as well. Probably Lech Poznan, they're the kind of white with blue. Maybe in my head I'm confusing them with Genk. We played them during the lockdown season of 2020, 2021. But it's an emotional, I think this feeling of emptiness of when I think of playing Genk this season in the Europa League groups. It's an emotional kind of conflation of the enforced solitude and separation we all experienced socially in lockdown. Conflating that with an Ibrox that felt totally moribund and empty of any kind of spirit or whatever, as we watched a phenomenal legacy in this competition. One built up so patiently, so doggedly, and with so kind of much character by Steven Gerrard, and kept going by Gio, who he picked what we did in the Europa League with Gio, and it was simmering. They kept it simmering. Did Philippe Clement? He got some amazing results in the Europa League group stage. Even Michael Beale beating Betis at home. He kept the Europa League legacy going. And Barry Ferguson, those only had 2 ties in the Europa League, Barry, and his caretaker management last season. And my God, the 2 games at Ibrox, didn't score in either of them. And it was still phenomenal nights. We held our head high in that tournament under Barry. It's a legacy of reminding ourselves that the Europa League, it's got a legacy for us of reminding ourselves and the world via this competition that we were bloody huge. And that we were back. When we come back into top flight, it wasn't going for us domestically. There's various other reasons for nobody able to topple Celtic. It's something that's going on all over the world. Just the kind of Champions League monopoly it creates. this monopolisation by one team of all the various leagues, even Manchester City being the first English team to win the title 4 times in a row, tells you about that. But without us being able to topple Celtic in terms of the league, we had the Europa League. We performed better in Europe, or lasted longer in Europe than Celtic. As soon as we get back into Europe, we had that one humiliation against Progress Nearacon, but it was a legacy of belief. It gave us the belief that we were going to be all right again after having come up through the lower leagues to the Europa League, and to watch us be so desolate on the pitch this season in a competition which has come to represent all the positive possibilities of Rangers FC, all their fight and spirit and class and skill. It's the most painful aspect of this season. It really is. Even more so for me than Bruges, than the humiliation, get beat 6-0 by Club Bruges. But just in case, we're now joining the Bruges levels of embarrassment with the Genk and Graz levels of morbidity. 3 winnable games in a competition we almost won 3 years. We almost won the Europa League 3 years ago. We're penalty kicks away from winning the thing. 3 winnable games we've had this season in a format that we excelled in last season. Finished in the top 8 of the group, finished in the last 8 of the competition. 3 games this season versus sides we'd have destroyed 12 months ago. They've all been lost. Those 3 games, we increasing levels of helplessness. We're 36th place in the Europa League group stage, and it is, we're 3 games in now. This kind of stuff can no longer be ignored, can no longer be seen as just a kind of freak of the early part of any kind of group stage, any league table campaign where things are finding their natural level. We are bottom. We are bottom. There's 3 other teams who are on 0 points. They're all just above us by like a goal or 2 goals, a goal difference. That's RB Salzburg, Utrecht and Nice, funnily enough, who were terrible last season. We gubbed them in this group stage last season. The memories. Oh, the memories. But 2 of the teams we're yet to play in this group stage. I mean, Braga at one point in the night were top of the group. Ferencvaros were in the top 8, and one of them, he's not doing as well as he'd want to, but Roma. That's who's up next. That's who's up in 2 weeks' time. That's just Roma of Serie A. They're going to be a bit. It's getting to the point where, I can't see us going through the whole group without winning a game, without getting any points on the board and that. But it's getting really flipping embarrassing. Us being so kind of bad domestically is so unusual. It's almost interesting this season. We'll be fine in Scotland, but we've never been as fine in any European competition in my lifetime as we have been fine in the Europa League since that game against Scoopy of North Macedonia on the 12th of July 2018, right up to that quarter-final exit against Athletic Club in San Mamés last season on the 17th of April 2025. We're ruining 7 years of just gorgeousness with the way we're playing in this competition. To not make the knockout stages would be a blow, but to do it like this, what we're doing just now, it's pretty awful, Troops, and I'm not going to try and butter it up for you in any way. I will be back quicker than you can handle to do a preview of the Kelly game, which will of course be mostly a mop-up of what's happened tonight in Norway, and okay, we'll try and look forward to Sunday, but right now, basically right up until kick-off against Kilmarnock, you should try and enjoy just a really singular experience as a Rangers supporter, which is Rangers have been absolutely gubbed by a team that should never be able to lay a hand on us, and yet we still all feel really sorry for the Rangers gaffer. And remember I told you I lost my axe. I lost my axe at the back door, my wee back garden. I still can't find it. I think it's because it's like a bit of a maze. My back garden. It's no easy. If you can get lost in there quite easily, but I'm going to go out and try and find my axe again. I think it's actually that time of year. It's getting towards the end of October. It's snowing. It's a bit of snow. It's getting quite snowy, so maybe the footprints will be able to follow the foot. Is that the Rangers manager who's walking at them? Is he walking about my back? Is he trying to hide at my back door, my back garden through that wee maze? Danny, you can't get away. I'm right behind you, I'm coming. I'm coming, Dan! All work and no play. That's watching Rangers, because our play just doesn't work.